everyone. I am Patty. I am Shauna's mom. And I'm sure you guys all know her backstory about how she was born with cancer. I guess I'm here to give you a little different take on it. So, yes, she was born with cancer, brain cancer. And we were able to, or she was diagnosed with it at approximately 6 months old. So we went into the hospital, not knowing if they would get it all, not knowing if there would be any side effects if they did get it all. What did it mean for her? We had no idea. There were no answers at that time. It was just, we're going to kind of do the best we can and go with it. And that was my take on it as well. We will do what we have to do when we have to do it. And as long as I have Shauna, then the world is right. So it was found that she had like a baseball to softball sized tumor in her head. So they had to immediately take it out. So Shauna went under the knife around Christmas time. And they told us that had we not done it when we did it, she wouldn't have been with us for Christmas. So that's how aggressive this cancer was for her. It was a strange part of my life. I did not know how to deal with something like that. It was never a thought in my head that was something that I might have to deal with. So my thought process was that if Shauna is strong, I will be just as strong. If Shauna needs me to cry, then I will cry with her. If she needs me to laugh, then I will laugh with her. And Shauna went through everything like a champ. She didn't cry much, but she laughed a lot. So that's what I did. Now, I had my own private moments because after the surgery, we still didn't know what was going to happen. They let us know that they couldn't get it all and that she would have to go to chemo. And then we went through that, or we were going through that, and they let us know that most likely she would have to have a blood transfusion and this and that, and you just couldn't take in everything. It was too much coming at you. But we just took one step at a time because that's all we knew how to do, or at least that's all I knew how to do. And if they said go to Children's Hospital and she's got chemo 2 times, 3 times a week, then that's what we did. And I did this for about 1.5 years. And I think, during this time, you're watching your child take their, crawl for the first time and take their first steps and engage with other children and learn how to speak. Their hair grows, they get taller. They do all of these things, but I wasn't watching for those things because we were like on a different planet. I was consumed by if Shauna's cancer would come back. The places that we had to go, with all these children that were sick. And hearing the cries and watching the parents just sit there and hold their hands. And it was just so emotional. I think that was honestly, when I look back at this time, where Shauna is, that was the hardest part for me, is going to Children's Hospital and walking in there, and your little girl seemed to be doing great. She was bebopping all around. She was playing. And these other children just did not seem to be doing as well as she did. And it was so emotional. Because you felt for every single parent, every single sibling, every single child that was there. And there was nothing that you could do except for hope and pray. And I did so much of that. To be expected. Never in front of Shauna. I can remember putting her to bed, making sure that she had her bubby and her, we used to put transfer factor plus in her bottles because we wanted to improve her white blood cell count so that way she didn't have to have blood transfusions, and it was just the whole process. But I would put her to bed and I would just go in the garage and just cry hours. And you do the whole give and take with God, making promises, and just me saying continuously, I know you wouldn't give me anything that I couldn't handle, but I just can't handle a child being taken away. It wasn't something I could even think of. I knew that it felt like I would just break. So I would cry. I would wipe my tears. And then I would go check on her and start all over again the next day. And that was pretty much the first 2 years of our life. Along with making sure that you had another child that wasn't sick. And you needed to make sure that they weren't affected by all of that. That they still lived a quote-unquote normal lifestyle. And they did. They really did. Tara would go bebopping down the road to her friends, and Shauna would go tottering behind her. And it seemed like all was well. And then they started school. Everything was normal. We were still doing CAT scans and checkups constantly, but we had dwindled down to once every 3 months, and then it was once every 6 months. And then around 5, she was cancer free, and we were like, we've made it through. Everything is going to be perfect. Cancer wasn't coming back. It was all going to be good. And Shauna went to preschool. Tara went to first grade. And Shauna always migrated towards the tallest children in the class. It was like they were her protectors. And noticed that she was small, but it didn't seem like any big deal because we weren't tall. It wasn't like we were basketball players. So how could I expect my kid to be tall as well? And then Shauna went into, I guess she was in kindergarten or first grade, and she was putting on a play with the rest of her class, and she was significantly smaller. And Mark leaned over and he said, "Did anybody notice how small Shauna is?" And at that moment, I really kind of didn't realize it. Because everyday life is, she did the things that she did. She got up and she managed just like everybody else did. So there wasn't anything stopping her. So there wasn't anything to notice or recognize. But then I had to sit back and go, wow, we need to do something about this. And that's when we proceeded to take her back to Children's Hospital to see if we can get her on growth hormones. We started that, and every single day we had to prick Shauna in a different area, a fatty area, which Shauna did not have any fat. But we had to pick a fatty area to stick this needle in her. We chose to do it at night in hopes that she wouldn't wake up and cry. Because when we did it during normal times or awake time, it was just so painful for her. She would just cry and tell us that she didn't want it. So we decided to do it at night. And doing it at night, it was better, but it would wake her up and she would be crying. And we would just have to put her back to sleep and hold her until she went back. So we did this for a couple of years. And it just wasn't, the results were not there. We pricked her every single day for 2 to 3 years. And there was 2 inches. And they basically told us our window was closing. And Shauna had decided that she just don't want to do it anymore. And I had to respect that. I was not the one that was getting pricked every day. I was not the one that was feeling that pain. I was not the one that wasn't having the results that we hoped they would be there. That would be there. And there's a lot of people that may think that why did I let my child make that decision? And I ask myself that sometimes too. But ultimately, as parents, we do the best we can in the moment. And we raise our children to be independent, free-thinking individuals. And yes, I want to give them the best life that there is. But this was her decision. And I was okay with that. Be that what it is. So we decided to give her a break. And in the interim of this, she was making friends and doing things. She was a cheerleader with her sister. She took Taekwondo. She did everything that she wanted to do. Maybe except for play softball, which just found that out. But she was okay. She had a large group of friends. She had birthday parties and she went places and she was invited and she was welcome. So it didn't seem like there was any significance to her being short. Big deal. She's just smaller than the rest of them. And then all of a sudden, it was time to go to dances. And she wasn't being asked. And that's when you started to see friends fall off. Because it was a different time, right? These kids are growing up and they're kissing boys and they're doing other things and they're going to parties and they may be drinking, they may be smoking, they may be doing whatever. And Shauna was now seen as a problem. And it was due to her height. She wasn't maturing like the rest of them. And that was a real slap in the face. So again, we went back to the doctors and we were like, we need to do growth hormones again and see if there's anything that we can do. And we found a great doctor. He said we have a small window of time. He put her on a growth blocker, or a hormone blocker, sorry. So this would prevent her from hitting puberty, because once she hit puberty, that was it. It was closed. So we did that. She started to see some results. She was doing it on her own now. We no longer gave her the shot. She did it. Pain tolerance was much higher, and it's easier. It's just like brushing your own hair. When your mom brushes your hair and you hit a knot, it hurts. When you brush your hair, not so bad. So that's what we did with Shauna and her shot. So she got some height from that, and then there wasn't anything we could do. Her period was coming. She was growing physically, or she was becoming a woman, and there wasn't anything that we could do to stop that. So unfortunately, the door closed, and she was at the height of 310. Now, what is this done for her? On one side of the spectrum, I think it's made her extremely strong, extremely vocal. On the other end of the spectrum, it's made her scared. At least that's my perspective. It's prevented her from trying those new things. Stopped her from going places. When you constantly get looked at or ridiculed in some way, hard. And like any mom or parent, I'm extremely protective. If you say or look at my child funny, or you come too close, I'm going to react. Can't be helped. But at the same time, I try and push her to go beyond her comfort zone. I'm not always successful. She has to take her time with that, and it's understanding. I grow impatient a lot because I know what Shauna can achieve, And I just want her to believe in herself. It's so hard. As a parent, you can't give that to your child. They only gain it from living life. They find out what they can and can't do through different spectrums of life. And Shauna didn't hit these. She wasn't able to date. She didn't have her first kiss till I don't know when. Romantic interaction, right? Having those sleepovers with girls and talking about boys and talking about different things that you would do, going to parties and trying things, having those secrets. She didn't do any of those things. And those are growth moments that I can't give to my child. Those are things that I regret. She is more than capable. And I regret that I'm not like some parents that just push and push and push their child, or just slightly push their child. If she said she wasn't comfortable, I was okay with it. Regret. She didn't want to continue with school, high school, because she was going to a new school and she was no longer in her safe place that she grew up in, and she didn't want to be inundated with more questions and comments. She was tired of it, so she did online school. That's a regret too for me. Mark and I pushed so hard for that. She just wouldn't give. We took her for a little bit and she would just get in the car and be so upset. I just couldn't stand my child being that way. So we decided it was easier for everybody involved that she would homeschool. But that meant that she didn't graduate with everybody else. She graduated sooner, but she didn't walk. She didn't have that moment. Regret. She didn't go to college. Definitely smart enough. She said she wanted to take a year off. And I let her know that if she took a year off, that was fine, but she had to go to work. And she did. And she used to come upstairs and just be crying. Didn't want to go back. People would be talking about her instead of to her. Asking about her instead of asking her. Why? She's doing everything that everybody else does. So ask yourself, why? Why do you insist upon putting these children in boxes? Let them have the same opportunities that you do. Why should they have to demand it? Why should they have to fight for it? They fought. She has fought since she came out of my womb. Why does she have to continue to fight for what you and I have? It's her right. Let her have it. Let them all have it. We owe them that much.